U.S. colleges and universities face a distinct challenge modernizing and integrating their identity and access tools. That's in part because serving students, faculty, staff, and alumni gets complicated, especially when the roles of individuals change constantly or as they take on multiple personas. Hi, I'm Wyatt Cash with Scoop News Group and EdScoop, and joining us to talk about that today is Erika Messerschmidt, Solution Engineer at Okta. Erika, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. Happy to be here today.
So let me start by asking, what are the key challenges that you're seeing IT leaders in higher education facing right now when it comes to rationalizing and integrating their identity and access management solutions?
Yeah, it's a great question. So, primarily the challenges that I see are around dealing with legacy on-premises infrastructure that's supported identity and access management at universities and colleges for potentially decades that cannot scale to modern standards. And we've especially seen this with the pandemic in the last couple of years, forcing remote interaction with applications and infrastructure in a way that hadn't existed previously, and really having to accelerate the movement to the cloud. And so because of that acceleration, right, not only do universities have to accommodate their remote systems and access that were pre-existing, but they also need to have a identity solution that really allows them to easily connect their employees, students, and faculty into the systems that they need in a way that doesn't cause a huge headache. So it's really a multifaceted movement, and it's been exciting to see how we've been able to accelerate based on the happenings in the world, even if they haven't been so fortunate.
Well, what's changing in the technology marketplace that offers a more cost-effective solution for education institutions to tackle some of these challenges?
Yeah, absolutely. So when we think about moving to the cloud, really the primary drivers for saving money are reduction of the maintenance of on-premises systems, as well as just the overall manpower it takes to run them. So for example, I've had customers in the past who had over 200 servers that supported identity alone. And so all of the folks who supported those servers had to take a huge chunk out of their day to be able to continue to maintain them. And that took them away from other more proactive activities. And so especially when, maintenance is a action that is not completely necessary for a system. If one were to modernize, there's an appetite to move away from that activity and be able to free up your people to do more things that cater to the student, faculty, and just overall university experience with applications. Not only that, but also just the experience for the students and faculty to be able to easily access systems without having to go through a significant amount of roadblocks to be able to get to them. So for example, being unnecessarily prompted for multi-factor authentication and having that be something that students especially don't have a great opinion on, and then therefore have a resistance to security mechanisms, which actually save the university money from a potential breach, for example. So, it's this balance between being able to provide that frictionless experience for the members of the university and the people who interact with it, as well as, being able to support a high security environment that protects the university from a potential, nefarious actor.
Well, and I'm kind of following up on that notion of getting the right balance. Where are you seeing use cases where colleges and university organizations are, making some pretty notable progress adopting this type of technology solution to make it easier for students and faculty, et cetera, but also making things more secure?
Yeah, absolutely. So, with universities, one of the most common things that we hear is that students, faculty, et cetera, they might have multiple roles, and therefore their access to systems needs to be very fine grained in relation to those roles that they have. So, when I talk to the universities that I work with, a lot of times I'll hear them say something like, I can't prove who has access to what. And I might have a set of users who has more access than they actually need. And that's a cause for concern from a security standpoint. Not only that, but the process to provision those users from something like a banner into the target applications might require some manual work, just like the maintenance of servers that supported an on-premises identity system, for example. So not only does that affect the IT group that has to deal with these processes and potentially have manual work as a result, but it also can affect, let's say, a student or a teaching assistant, for example, who needs access to something specific based on a role change that's just happened, and they can't get access to that. So then they need to go call the help desk, who then has to understand what the problem is and then go resolve that manually. So that's another piece, kind of tying back into return on investment, is just reducing the amount of interactions that have to occur verbally between the members of the university who are interacting with the services and the IT team, and we're really seeing that reducing that manual work, as well as automating those processes of provisioning and making sure people have access to just the right amount of information, really makes a big difference all around.
Well, and then lastly, Erika, what are some of the collateral benefits or lessons that you've seen colleges and universities gain by adopting this technology? And if you had one last recommendation to make to these organizations, what might that be?
Absolutely. So I think one of the biggest benefits that universities see from adopting a more modernized identity solution is the speed at which the integrations, as well as the overall experience of the user, can occur. And I think that that's not just a testament to identity specifically when it comes to cloud-based products, but also just really any solution that you're trending towards that isn't based in that on-premises environment, which, just as we've talked about, requires just such a higher amount of maintenance to keep going, as well as can be tedious to integrate with newer technologies. That in combination with reducing help desk tickets, being able to reduce the amount of infrastructure that supports the solution, and then having an overall more modernized experience for students and faculty really creates a big, overall return on investment and benefit. And I mean, if you can just imagine being a student who is interacting with a university for the first time, right? And being able to very easily and seamlessly gain access to all the applications that you need, not having to remember 5 different passwords for 5 different resources, and also not getting prompted for multi-factor authentication unnecessarily every single time you try to access something, by having risks taken into account. Like, you're going to have a very positive experience with the technology at your university. And not only that, but the student might be curious enough to want to work with that technology in the future. It's a great route for being able to have student interns who work with technology that's modern, and then go on to work with that technology in future roles. If we stay in a world where students are only interacting with legacy technology, well, that's not where the future is going. So I think, again, it's so multifaceted. There's the immediate gains that you get from an operations standpoint, and then there's also the experience that your students, faculty, et cetera, have using the solution, and that has benefits beyond just what you immediately see when you implement the solution, but for years to come as well.
That certainly makes a lot of sense. Well, Erika Messerschmidt, thank you so much for joining us today to talk about identity modernization at U.S. colleges and universities.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.